Welcome back to another episode of Not Even D2, the podcast covering Division III sports through interviews with those involved in Division III. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on any other platform, make sure to follow the show. Also follow our socials at Not Even D2. Any support is greatly appreciated, helps the podcast out a lot. So definitely be sure to go do that before we get into this episode. But today we got Coach Kevin App, who's the head coach of Williams College. Williams, obviously a historic program, but he's also been a part of some other legendary and historic programs. Spent 1 year at Cornell, and in his 1 year there, they made it all the way to the Sweet 16 of March Madness, lost to Kentucky, who had John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins that year. Just a great experience for Coach App, which we talk about with him. He also spent some time at Army West Point, another Division I program, and he kind of changed the culture at Army West Point when he was there, started winning some games and became like a known program in the Division I world. And now he's coaching, like I said, one of the most historic and successful programs in all of Division III in Williams College. Just a great coach, really good guy. So what you think about Coach App in this episode?
So first of all, we have to give a big shout out to Coach App for being patient with us, and waiting to drop this episode. I know that, we didn't film this episode not too long ago, but, I'm excited for the viewers to finally listen and hear what Coach App has to say to us. Because, he's a coach of a high profile program, and especially with Williams, like they have a less than 9% acceptance rate, right? So that means like the type of kids that you're able to recruit is much different than, let's say you're at a SUNY school, right? The acceptance rates are very different, and the profile of a student athlete is going to be very different. So Coach App has to sift through those different players and find the perfect fit for his program that both can fit in academically in the school, but also compete at that high level. So I give a lot of praise for that. But also another thing too, he won a bunch of different awards in college relating to sportsmanship or just being an overall good teammate. And he was also a captain on that Cornell team that you just mentioned, right? And he does that today with his players and empowers them to be bigger than basketball, I feel, right? So, for example, we have Cole Proud-Smith, who I'm reading on Twitter and on Instagram. He's a climate activist, and he majored in environmental studies. Or we got our guy Astad, who is, as he labels himself, a creative, right? He's working on a documentary, talking about this past season, or he was a producer. So Coach App is bringing together all these different players from different backgrounds with different student athlete profiles and making them all fit together seamlessly. And he's just an overall really good coach, and it's easy to see.
Yeah, definitely a great coach. He's been at Williams for 10 years, made the tournament 6 out of those 10 years. So a lot of success. And one thing I respect about Coach App is when we talk about with him that success or his program being so good, it's like, well, yeah, I had these mentors that kind of showed me the way. Or your team is top 10 in defense this past year. What were you doing on defense or implementing defensive philosophies to make you guys so good on defense? He's like, well, it's just my players. They lock into the film aspect. So when you have a coach that is just like so humble and always giving praise to somebody else, it allows you to trust him and play that much harder for him. And another thing that I wanted to talk about is you can see through this interview how calm and like collective, just always here. Something Coach Kemphy talks about at Alfred is just like, if we're up 20, we're here. If we're down 20, we're here. So when you have a coach like that and you can look at the sideline in the NCAA tournament, or, they were really good in the clutch this past season. When you have a coach you could look over and he's just like, well, yeah, we're going to run our stuff right now. It's like, relax. It means a lot as a coach, but also it reflects a lot on the players to just be like, I'm a basketball player. I'm going to make this play because my coach isn't bugging on the sideline. There's no tense over there. So why would I be tense? So sure. It definitely respect a lot about Coach App and how he's continued the success at Williams. We talk about a lot with him, making it to the NCAA tournament, what he's learned over those years, why he implores his players to go after what they're passionate about, and a little about, playing him or coaching in March Madness, going against John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins. Like I said, great experience. So definitely a great episode, and enjoy the conversation with Coach App. All right, we're here with Coach App. How you feeling today?
I'm good. It's a beautiful time of year in the Berkshires, and as I just mentioned, got the 3 kids in bed another night, so another night of success on that front.
Let's go. So quickly, we were just talking to a coach the other day, and he mentioned how some of his hobbies consist of like being on the lake, being on the boat. So I'm curious, as a coach, what's your like outside of basketball hobbies during the off season?
I'm thinking of all my coaching colleagues that might have been. It probably ebbs and flows. I mean, we bought our first house, my wife and I, 2 years ago. So I don't know if I like it yet, but I end up in the yard a lot, mowing the grass and, taking care of that. So I'm not quite, fond of it enough to call it a hobby yet. No, I'm fairly simple. I mean, I'm usually at home with the family, if not, with the team and coaching basketball. And, I read a lot. That's if I have any quiet time, I'm usually, on the back deck or, in a different room reading a book. And that was the main hobby I picked up. I always had it, but, definitely during COVID when we couldn't do much else, it was running and reading were the 2 things that, I did during that time. And, both have stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah. What books are you reading right now?
I'm reading current one about Jackie Robinson called Call Me Jack. So I do this thing. I just buy a bunch of books on Amazon. Some sit on my, shelf for about 5 minutes or 5 days. Others, it's 6 years and I haven't quite mustered up the courage to read it yet. But the next one, then I bought the one Pipeline to the Pros about, just the Division III impact on the NBA. So I'm looking forward to getting to that one too.
Yeah, this is a quick shout out to the authors of Pipeline to the Pros. If you guys are listening, make sure to go get that book. It's awesome. Just highlighting kind of the same principle as us, highlighting Division III stories, but theirs is centered around D3 characters that have made it to the professional basketball league, the NBA.
I just wanted to say, too, we appreciate you coming on, too, Coach. Williams is a great program. You're a great coach, so we're really excited for this episode.
Well, I'm pretty, nervous to follow up, like I told you guys. I've had some great representatives of the NESCAC, and, you're smart to start with the players. That's the best best place to get the best. So all 4 of them that I've listened to have been awesome.
Appreciate it.
Speaking of players, we know that Williams is like one of the best, schools in the country when it comes to academics. So, I'm kind of wondering, have you heard the stress, the groans from a lot of your players when it's probably finals week right now over there. So just kind of wondering that.
Yeah, you hear the word grind way too much these last 10 days of the semester and finals. And it's it's probably every Northeast college campus, right? The sun starts to come out and you want to get outside and enjoy that and spend time, and then you check your to-do list. So but they're tackling one paper, one problem set, one exam at a time. But they definitely heard the question of how you doing, how's the workload going, has definitely changed in the last couple of weeks.
So you've had a stellar coaching career, but I want to start from your playing career. You were a 4-year player at Cornell, which is a Division I school. You were a walk-on, and in your senior year, you won the Rebounders Club Award given to you by your teammates, and you're also a captain. So I'm curious, as a walk-on, how did you kind of gain the respect of your teammates and just a voice in the locker room, even though you might have not been the best player on the team?
That's a good assumption, KJ. Definitely. I think being a walk-on is, one, I was just so fortunate to make the team. I went to Cornell not knowing if I'd have, be able to continue this, game and that I love. So when I was afforded that opportunity, I think my entire perspective, just completely shifted than my teammates and friends that were, recruited to, and all the stuff that comes with that, whether expectations or, added pressure that they put on themselves to, perform. I just got to come in and, hopefully have good energy and good effort each day. And, if I did anything well, it was just that. It was just showing up and, just really doing anything I could to help the team. And I think over time, people saw that was genuine and I was in it for them and the group more than myself. And I still know they called me on Halloween, my freshman year, to tell me they'd love me to come to practice the next day. And then, I said they just couldn't get rid of me after that. So, but I think, it was a great honor when my teammates kind of recognized it. But, like I talk with a lot of the leadership and, guys on the team here is, I think a lot of how I try to teach leadership is what I felt is, me and my classmates and, I wasn't doing anything my senior year that I wasn't doing my freshman year in terms of personality and being a good teammate.
I just had a quick question. I'm wondering this. So Cornell is obviously a great school. It's in the Ivy League, and now you coach at Williams. And, both schools are really good academic institutions. So how much of your experience as a student athlete has helped you in your coaching at Williams, like helping the players or maybe understanding their perspective as student athletes going to a high profile academic institution?
It's definitely something in the interview process I said would help me out. But no, I think it's, if anything, hopefully I can have a little bit of perspective in terms of the decision they made to come to an institution like Williams was the same that, my friends and teammates and I decided to go to Cornell. It's a little bit of that, I can kind of, when they start talking problem sets and papers, I can remind myself where their minds are at and, try to get them, to enjoy it. But, not even the academic side. I think just I had a phenomenal college basketball experience. I gave a talk to the first year parents here about my career and how I, my total minutes was just under an hour and a half. So not a ton. But I had the greatest experience of my life. And I think that hopefully comes across in my, messaging and how we try to build the culture here at Williams. And, same thing in my coaching career, the people I've gotten to work for, what they've taught me. So, the academics I can relate a little bit, but it's more so, I'm trying to create just wonderful experience that I had. And hopefully that comes across even more than, I used to do that physics stuff too, guys.
Yeah.
So leaving Cornell, your first job was an assistant at Williams, and then you went back to Cornell to coach for 1 year. And I want to talk about this specific year at Cornell. You guys are 29-5, which is an Ivy League record. You guys won the Ivy League that year, and you made it to the tournament, and you made it all the way to the Sweet 16 as a 12 seed. You beat number 4 seed in Temple, number 5 seed in Wisconsin, and you lost to 1 seed in Kentucky. So just a historic season over there at Cornell. So just talk a little about that season in general and kind of what you learned from that whole season, making it to a long run in the March Madness.
Yeah, it was new into coaching. You're just, I got into it. My first year was at Williams, like you said, found this coach and coach maker, this group of guys that I just loved being around. And it was hard to leave. I coach Spiker got the West Point job pretty late, and Coach Donahue, called to see if I was interested in coming over and kind of joining the staff for the year. So I moved over there 2 days before the first practice and jumped right into it. It was a unique scenario where I was the, third volunteer assistant, and, the seniors on the team were the guys that were freshmen when I was a senior. So, the relationship side of things wasn't too different, than it was when I was a senior captain and they were a freshman. So that made the transition just, really seamless and fun. You just kind of back around your friends, helping them in a little different perspective, from the coaching, coaching with guys you trust and they trust you. So, and I was just in it. I didn't know, I didn't know what I was really doing. I was just doing what they asked me to do, learning as much as I could, and just kind of going on this ride with that special group of guys. And to be, at your alma mater and with your, former teammates and working for your coach was, pretty special when at the end of the season you look up and you just played, John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and, in the Sweet 16 and, we're in Syracuse, New York. So, over half the place was red for, all the Cornell fans. So it was just a, special experience. And the Williams team that I left that year, that you're still following, went to the national finals that year. So, as I always remind my assistants, I thought I had all the answers in the world back then. Both teams led the each division in 3-point shooting. In my mind, only one thing was in common between both programs that year. No, it was just a special year, and just another validating point for what this experience can be for teams and young men and teammates. And, one of the other kind of, validating years that goes into kind of my philosophy and what we're trying to create year in, year out.
So after your 1 year at Cornell, historic season, you ended up at the United States Military Academy, another Division I school. You spent 4 seasons there. And in one of your seasons, you had the first winning record in the last 28 years for that program. So obviously you guys are starting to turn a little bit of heads, but it wasn't the same at Cornell. Cornell was kind of dominating the Ivy League. So was there any differences you noticed while coaching at Cornell versus the military academy? And you can take this basketball-wise or just in general, because obviously you're at a military school versus an Ivy League. There's a little bit of differences there.
Well, first of all, I think we lost our last 9 games that year. So I saw the other end of, Division I coaching of, this senior established team that Coach Donahue had built to Cornell. And then this new program that we were trying to build, in Coach Spiker's image at Army West Point. And, how much work has to go in to get from one end of that spectrum to the other. So as a new coach, it was, again, I didn't know this then, but looking back on it, to work at a Williams where I got to work for, Mike Maker in his first year as a head coach and see all the things a first year head coach has to think, has to do, all the decisions they have to make. And doing that in a program that had such historical success like Williams, being a player and coach for Coach Donahue, I came in as a player when he was kind of in the middle of his build of his program, and then got to go back at kind of the end of, what it could get to, and then get to coach for Coach Spiker as he was building this program at West Point. I got to see 3 very different perspectives of program building, which I think, really taught me a lot more than I probably knew in the moment. And then, working at West Point was a special time. One, because the people I got to work with in terms of Coach Spiker, Coach Jimmy Allen, who ended up being the head coach there for a while, was a really successful D3 head coach. I shouldn't have named any of them because now I'm going to forget somebody, but Omar Mance and Quentin Farrell, Sean Retigliano, Justin Jennings, all guys that have gone on to be, successful head coaches or, high-level D1 associate head coaches. So I got to learn so much through our big staff that we got to have at Army West Point. And then the type of people you're around, it's hard not to hear all about the leadership development, how they do that, where they feel athletics fits into the leadership development model they have at West Point. And then just the history. I mean, to be a coach at a place where, Bob Knight and Mike Krzyzewski were head coaches was a pretty special experience. To get that winning season and then watch them, kind of sustain a winning program after I came back to Williams was, special to feel you had a hand in, again, building that program in the image of Coach Spiker and our staff.
So I want to hear a little bit more about this. You talked about the different perspectives that you gain working at different programs. So I'm wondering if you could talk about maybe the specific inspirations that you took from the different programs that you worked at and how that influenced you in your first couple of years at Williams.
Yeah, so I think the best thing I got to do was work with Coach Spiker and Coach Maker when they were in their first or second year as new head coaches. And again, all the thought you got to put into how you want to teach, what you want to teach, how you want to build your culture as the head coach. And then combining that with, seeing what the end result can be at Cornell. And then individually, it's three great coaches that I got to, I think, two of them were national coach of the year. One of them was, league coach of the year. So, Coach Donahue, just that I've always said his way, he is able to get you as a player to see basketball the way he does. And I think that's half of our job as coaches. Or he was at least able to get me to see it. Coach Maker is the best teacher I'll probably ever be around in terms of, just everything. Like I think I said on a podcast, I'm still trying to create the, classroom type environment that he was able to create in his practices. And then Coach Spiker is, just the always having a vision, a plan. I remember sitting in recruiting meetings and him telling recruits early when we were losing 9 straight games to finish the season. There's nothing better than making history at one of the most historical places in the world. And we're going to make history in this program. And, do you want to be a part of it? And he just had that vision and stuck with it. And made it happen through kind of his hard work and personality. So, obviously took a little bit from each of them coaching wise, but, it's different phases of coaching and program building, I think was the thing I probably go back to the most.
So you were at West Point for about 4 years, and obviously we talked about how you were a coach at Cornell for about a year. So what ended the decision to become a head coach at the Division III level instead of the Division I level?
Yeah, I think one, I never, maybe it's my background a little bit. I never went into coaching with any kind of end game or end goal. I was doing my engineering job for a year and just really wanted to make a change and got these great opportunities and didn't know where they would take me. And, after working at those, 3 great institutions, I think really I just wanted to be at a place where you could, again, create that experience that I had of, getting a great degree, being around special people, socially, academically, and athletically, and compete at a high level. The first opportunity I got was at Williams, which, I wasn't even 29 yet. I was replacing my mentor, and, they were coming off a national finals buzzer beating loss. So, somehow won the lottery at 28. And so, it didn't really matter what level it was to me. It was more the type of place. Can you coach with the proper perspective? Can you have success? And can you attract, great young men that you can hopefully mentor and, teach about leadership and teamwork and stuff.
So I want to hear, obviously you've been talking highly just so far about Coach Maker and what kind of coach he is, but what were the early days of working with him, and how did you develop chemistry with him?
Coach Maker, myself and Pat Dory, the head coach at Haverford now, we spent a lot of time together that first year. Coach Maker was single at the time. I was about to be single, and Coach Doherty had a long distance relationship at the time. And Williamstown is it's a small town. I tell people all the time that's the best thing about it is you can really foster genuine lifelong relationships in a short period of time if you're invested in that experience. I was fortunate that I think I accepted a job mid-July, moved to town August with Coach Maker. He actually had to crash in, my rental for a few days before his was ready. So we're learning about this new town together, this new college together. And then we got to take the team to Italy for 10 days. So just kind of lucked into that situation. So on top of that, I then just got to spend 10 days in Italy, hearing all about, his plan for the program, what he was going to teach, how he was going to teach it, what he should teach, what he shouldn't teach, and going back and playing ping pong with all those ideas. So, that time, really kind of let us hit the ground running, I think, in the fall. Plus if anybody that's met Coach Mayer, that's who he is. He One, he's a great teacher, a great person. And, the time that him, Coach Doherty and I got to spend together that first year, I think really, was impactful on me for sure.
What were your first impressions of the NESCAC coming from Division I? And maybe you could also talk about Division III as a whole, not just the NESCAC specifically, if you want to.
I'm trying to shoot, that first year seems like a long time ago. No, I think that's what, probably, really stood out, that it wasn't, there's not this big difference. I'd talk about it a lot with our staff or with recruits. It's there's been so many examples of like the, not even jump, just the movement from one team to the next, one program to the next. There, a lot of them are just labels, but the skill level, the coaching, the teamwork, the strong programs at the Division III level, and in the NESCAC in particular, were just incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Also, just some of that history that the programs have, the long history of regional opponents and that sort of thing definitely stood out. But yeah, just definitely the level of talent and coaching, and it really didn't feel any different. Maybe the gym fits 800 less, but probably the same amount of people were in the gym and supporting the games. So that really stood out, and just I just loved how much fun I was having just being back around the game. It took me back to being a walk-on, where I thought my playing career was over, got to join the team when I went to be an engineer. I kind of thought my time around the team and around basketball was, going to be around my kids' teams or my just as a fan. So to get that experience back with Coach Maker and the Williams group was kind of brought me back to that college feel of like, hey, I'm in this. Let's go have a good time and learn as much as I can.
Yeah. We're going to fast forward a little bit to your head coaching career at Williams. You've made 6 NCAA appearances, NCAA tournament appearances, 2 to the Sweet 16, 1 to the Elite 8, 1 to the Final Four. So obviously you're making long runs in the postseason. And postseason has a lot of different, even like conference postseason play, has a lot of different emotions and feelings compared to regular season. So how are you getting your Williams teams prepared for postseason play?
I haven't always. No, every year is just a little different, but I think one thing we hang our hat on if we're fortunate enough to, make it into the bracket is, back to our league and the teams and the players and the coaches we get to compete against. We know and we feel we are prepared, and so I think that's really what we hang our hat on. I'm fortunate to work at a program where we have some history of, showing them, what can be done, and, saying, hey, we are prepared. You are ready. This is not happy to be here. We can go win some games and hopefully continue this season, this journey together. So, those are two things we, try to harp on, is that experience of the season up until that point has prepared us. And then having that history to kind of lean back on and say, it was the same thing we were telling these teams. And usually the ones that, go the furthest, it's, about matchups or playing well that day, or really just kind of letting your guard down and seeing what happens. Sometimes the years we've felt we came up short, we maybe, put too much pressure on getting to the next weekend, getting to the Final Four, getting to something else instead of just, enjoying the moment for what it was.
Alex Stoddard episode we had earlier, he talked about you guys capitalizing in late game situations. So I'm curious, is there any, are you a big ATO guy or late game situation, having some sets, or are you just giving your players the freedom to kind of play free in those late game situations?
My staff always, they're probably sick of me saying it. Talk about the balancing act of a coach. And, this time of year, we were talking about what I was doing in the spring and summer. You do a lot of self-reflection on what you learned for the past season. And, there's certain years I've really felt like I've let the team down by not being more prepared for ATOs, not being more prepared or getting them more prepared. And then there's other years where I've felt, oh my gosh, I got way too in the way. I overcoached them. We should have just let them play with some, looseness and confidence. And, I wish I could take more credit for this year's team. They, knew what they wanted to be about, knew what their, stuck to their identity that they wanted to create, and kept finding ways. And, it's like anything in athletics. Sometimes it just starts to build on one another. We, pulled out a couple close ones early in the season. So the next close one, we've been here before, and, next thing you know, you pull that one out. I wish I could take the credit. But no, it's probably one of the things every year at the end of the year. I wish I did more late game stuff. I wish I did more, of those situational stuff. But, other stuff always kind of creeps up, or, we're not quite good enough at other things yet to even get to that sometimes. But, that was another, every year's been different. Some years we get tense, have gotten tense in those moments because we're afraid to lose. Other times, maybe we don't have as many kind of those tight games. So when we finally get to them, the guys aren't as comfortable. This year was just kind of a, happy medium that, they'd been in a lot of games before, and, really trusted each other to kind of figure out very, very different ways. And, it's probably different guys every single close game. So, which was kind of a rewarding, experience for our group.
I have one more question before we go to break. You talked about the long history that Williams has, and you inherited a team that's just been coached by a legendary coach and Coach Maker. When you were first got that opportunity, was there any nerves, like I have to live up to this certain expectation, or were you kind of just comfortable in your role?
Nerves is like a loose, generous word for what I was feeling that first year. And then to make matters worse, we started 0-2. It wasn't, it's a special place and a special program. And, before Coach Maker was Coach Dave Paulson, who's, won a national championship at Williams, went to 2 Final Fours. He's now the head coach at Holy Cross. Before him was Coach Sheehy, who, was a All-American player at Williams, the winningest men's basketball coach at Williams, and then our athletic director. So, big shoes to fill on that front. And, so it wasn't nerves. It was more, working for this program. I fell in love with the place and the people, and, just wanted to make them proud. So it was more just kind of an added level of pressure. I think every, time you're getting a first head coaching experience, you're going to have a little, nerves or, doubt yourself a lot at times. But that added level of, knowing the people and not wanting to let them down was, wore on me at times. But I don't think, that's one of those things you can really do anything but go through and learn from. And I had 2 great assistants that are, better head coaches than me now, that were by my side that year, that helped me out. So, it was, we have some funny stories about when we were 0-2 that year, and like, what did we just get into? So,
yeah, I like that. Control what you can control, for sure. But stay with us. We're going to take a quick break and then get into some NESCAC battles and the future of your program.
And we're back. So, KJ and I noticed that your team this year was ranked top 10 in defense in Division III. So it made us wonder, what philosophies / like tactics do you use that allows Williams to be so dominant on defense?
This is one of those we've had a couple things that have worked in our favor, especially with some of our recent teams. And, I think our positional length at times allows us to, keep the ball out of the paint, or, out from penetrating the 3-point line. So that's, one thing we're trying to do. And then we add a level of scouting, and I think ultimately it comes down to the team, one, do they trust each other to, if I do what I'm supposed to do, is are the other four going to, not have me look like I got burned, because they're doing what they're supposed to do, and, moving together type thing. So, really what we've been able to do the last couple of years is just add, our guys have taken the scouting element to it. So, hey, this is their top 3-point shooter. We don't want to get, you can't go under and chasing them off every screen or whatever it might be on that aspect. So, so I think our size at times and length has helped, hide probably everything I don't teach very well. And then, the guys' kind of commitment to, doing it together, I think's helped.
Yeah. One thing I noticed looking at your schedule is you're holding teams to very low scores, but how do you kind of balance the two, offense and defense, when you know that your strength with this year's roster was the defense, but you also got to put points up against certain teams like Oswego, you got to score in the 80s. So how are you balancing the two?
Yeah, it's always, one of those other balancing acts of being a coach. And, the last 2 years have been, I think good for me, in that 2 years ago, we were, one of the top, efficient offenses in the country. We were, going into the NCAA tournament, we were first in 3-point shooting on offense. This year we kind of, flipped the other way. We're, top on the defensive 3-point shooting percentage. So it was good for me in that, the ultimate goal is to win the basketball game. So figure out, what your group's identity is, with their, get them to buy into what their identity is, and, trust them to go do it. So, we're willing to, we have a philosophy on offense of, spacing and ball movement. And, sometimes that results in, getting to the rim. Sometimes it results in, drive and kick threes. Other times it results in, our talented one-on-one scorers got to make a play. So, we kind of let the game, dictate some of that stuff a little bit, but then stick to our core principles on the defensive end. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of the things I overthink or don't think enough about sometimes is, with our base defense kind of leading to longer shot clock possessions for the other team. Is that good, or should we try to pick the pace up by speeding them up a little bit? And, ultimately we just got to win that game point, whether it's in the 60s or the 80s. I think we showed that down the stretch. We could do both. And I think this year's team took pride in that, where sometimes if things weren't other teams at times we've had where if it's not really flowing or going well on the offensive end, we didn't like that type of game. Whereas this year we kind of just relished either type of game. And sometimes it's who you play, right? Like we played Con, who's got one of the best zones and defenses in the country. We played Trinity twice. We played Christopher Newport, Amherst. We played, 3 times. So just some of those top defensive. St. Lawrence has got same thing, one of the best defenses and zones in the country. Who was WPI? I mean, maybe I should stop scheduling the top defenses in the country. We can score a little bit more.
Talking about top defenses, so we noticed that both Trinity and Williams were ranked top 10 in the country in defense, and you had to play them twice this year, once in the regular season and once in the NESCAC final. So how do you prepare your team for games like that when you know it's going to be a defensive grind?
Yeah, that's I think one thing, coaching more in the league and having more experience, you can kind of prepare some guys in the team for what their mindset has to be. I think my first 3 years as a head coach, we lost to Trinity all 3 times by a combined 6 points. I think every game came down to the last shot or an offensive rebound that they out-toughed us for. And I think I told Coach Crosgrove it was that fourth year where we were on the road at their place in a tight game. And I was like, this is going to happen again. And we kind of, fought through it a little bit, made some plays, and ended up, coming out of there with a win. And so I thought that was, there's a couple of programs where you have that, if you're tough enough to kind of withstand, how they're going to attack you, you got a chance to be a tough team and win. And, I think they're one of the programs. Wesleyan is another one, where, all right, a good barometer of, kind of where our mindset and group physicality is that year.
So speaking a little bit more about Wesleyan, so you guys are in the little three that is comprised of Amherst, Williams, and Wesleyan, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about the little three, what the little three rivalries like, and how do you prepare your teams to play against those programs twice, as NESCACs only usually play each other once?
Yeah, when you sent me that question, I was thinking about it, and we've actually played the last 7 years. We've played at least one of them, if not both of them, 3 times, because we've seemed to draw one or both in the NESCAC tournament too. So, I think one, it's part of the reason we do it is because you get even more up for those games. You know how much the rivalry means, and in any rivalry game, when you have that, common knowledge and you both just know each other really well, that just kind of adds to that rivalry. We've both programs, I mean, we've go through kind of phases. I mean, in terms of, I think 7 of the last 9 games against both of them have come down. There's been a shot in the last 10 seconds to tie or win it for either team. So they always seem to kind of come down to that last moment, no matter what the game's been going on. Obviously great fan and alumni supporting them. So it's fun. We play the Wesleyan one in December in the first semester, which is always just, like I said, a great barometer of where our team is early in the season. I think for both of us as we head into, the rest of our non-conference break and then getting ready for the NESCAC. So that's a great game to kind of, learn a lot about the team early in the season. But it's fun. I mean, it's one of the, best part about college athletics. If you have that rivalry, the built-in one, and, to have all 3 programs so strong the last or the decade I've been here has been, like I said, pretty rewarding and memorable.
Yeah.
You talked about how the NESCAC is one of the best leagues, and you also talked about your non-league schedule has been pretty tough with the defenses you're playing against. So I'm curious what your mindset scheduling non-league games are. Are you trying to prepare your guys for NESCAC play, or what's your thought process behind having a tough SOS?
Yeah, it's another thing I wish I could say I put as much thought into as I could probably lie and say I do. Sometimes it just comes down to geography, sometimes dates, sometimes academic calendars and what we're allowed to miss, not allowed to miss. But ultimately what we're trying to do is, if we had it our way, every program, we'd be scheduling teams in the top of their top half of their league, whatever league that is. And I think the more styles, the more different, leagues we can touch in our schedule, that can prepare us more for anything we might see in league play or in postseason play. So that's really what we're trying to do. Every year we try to get to different regions depending upon where guys on our team are from. We, went up to St. Lawrence 2 years ago because Declan Porter on our team's from Canton. This year we went out to the Bay Area in California because we have a few guys from out there. So, that's a little bit of that, kind of where we want to travel for, team alumni reasons, and then where we're allowed to travel and who can play those days and kind of piecing it all together. So, you can never get kind of everything you want because it's a little bit of a back and forth in relationship. But, ultimately we're trying to play. And it's one of the benefits of being in New England. There's a lot of leagues within a few hours. So if you can, touch different leagues and different styles. And I think that can prepare and be, ultimately it's always the best learning for a team is to play another opponent that maybe challenges you in different ways, whether, stylistically, offensively, defensively, whatever it might be.
That's a great segue. You mentioning that you have players from a bunch of different regions of the world on your team. And Ruda and I were looking at the roster and came across this, and it really made us wonder kind of your recruiting style. So I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. This past year's roster had players from North Carolina, Ohio, California, Texas, New York City, Washington, Illinois, Florida, Virginia, and obviously in Massachusetts, Connecticut area. So what tournaments are you going to that you're seeing all these guys, and what is your recruitment style to kind of sell them to come to Williams?
Yeah, so it's part by, I think part by design. It's part one of our, potential strengths at the Division III level is we can kind of cast a national net. So how we do that, like I was saying, is before we hopped on, is literally different for every guy. Sometimes when I think I have it figured out, the whole NCAA recruiting calendar or where the tournaments are end up changing. So we got to get back to the drawing board. But ultimately it's admissions here that's driving the ship on that front. So my number one job on top of building winning championship level basketball program and basketball team is to find great young men that are representative of Williams College, and they have a national, international footprint in the student body. So it's, they tasked me as the men's basketball coach to build a roster, that is as representative of the whole student body as I can. So I've been fortunate that my predecessors that I talked about, Coach Paulson, Coach Maker, were already running the program that way. So we, it's just kind of what I was used to. The teams I played on at Cornell and coached at Army were similar. And I think, one of the things we talk about is that I think it makes the experience, really enjoyable, and you learn from other people and their perspectives, from all over the country. So, I think it's a fun environment to be a part of. Where we see them, how we get them to visit. Like I said, every year is a little bit different. Some years it's big AU tournaments. Some years it's elite camps at different places. Some years it's academic camps. Some years it's just through technology. And then, we reach out to them and, the academic ranking, the athletic history is enough to draw them to come take a look.
Another thing that your answer just made me think about is the transfer portal. So obviously the transfer portal is much different than how it was even 2 years ago. And, you're big on recruitment. How do you balance focusing on the high school level versus people already in the transfer portal? And what is your just general perspective on the transfer portal as a whole?
It's one of the times I'm lucky to be the coach at Williams. There's many reasons. We're not allowed to take transfers or able to take transfers, so I don't have to really think too much about it in terms of that aspect of things. Overall, like I said, I you love parts about it and that people get to go find what they're looking for and what they want. But I'm again, knock on wood, fortunate that, I work at a place where we've been able to, have the program that I loved being a part of, where you get to come in, grow, get to know your teammates over 4 years, get to know the program, the staff, and really, find a way as a team every year to, be the best you can be. So, we get to still kind of operate in that model a little bit. One, that we can't bring in anybody except, high school students. And then, it's our hope in recruiting that if we're, not just selling basketball, but selling the whole Williams experience, and that's why people are coming to Williams. And we're providing the right experience while they're there. That's hopefully something they want to keep being a part of.
So throughout this interview, you've mentioned alumni a couple of times, and I asked A-Stod this just about the alumni network at Williams, and how how they maybe help him throughout his college experience, or just help the team in general. And I don't know if so. I know one of the alumni. I actually don't know if he's considered an alumni because he was only there for a year, but Duncan Robinson. I've seen personally how he gives back to the community, how he's willing to help people, and how just he's an overall great guy and a great representative for Division III basketball and basketball as a whole. So I'm just wondering if you could speak as on the alumni network as a whole, and how they've helped you in your coaching tenure at Williams.
Again, it's one of the things that definitely stands out about this place, this community, and a lot of it is they. In our environment, in our community, I think it just leaves a lasting impact, and one that, they feel very fond of. So they want to help any, kind of Williams student, basketball, non-basketball, that they can. And I always tell our guys, it's one of the fun, being here a decade now as a head coach, just learning, what, not just alumni I've coached, but the previous alumni, what they're doing, where they're working, what industries they're in. We, rarely go a game or a timeline where we're not having, some, in the gym, home or away. And they're, incredibly supportive as, life advisors, career advisors, or just a support system for the guys. So, we, it's great to have them behind us. We've had some great times where we've been able to, have them come to campus and, really remind the guys of the program that they get to be a part of. I always tell the guys, if you want to reach out about some career advice or networking opportunities, you just got to be ready to do it, because they're going to usually call you, usually set up a Zoom, usually send you 6 other friends of theirs that you're expected to call and email. And, so it's a great resource. And, you mentioned Duncan, and, there's so many more.
Will Hardy, he was telling, I didn't mean to cut you off, but he was telling a story about how so I know he's an alum. I'm pretty sure he's alumni of Williams. And he was saying how there was a family that is like a fan, or maybe is connected to the Williams basketball program, that connected him to Greg Popovich, where he eventually became one of the G League coaches. So that just speaks to like how connected the alumni network is at Williams. And I really admire that about the school. Yeah,
there's, not just in athletics. I mean, Will, Coach Tong, one of our previous head coaches, was kind of his, relationship that ended up opening that door. And then, we have a basketball alumni who's the general manager of the LA Galaxy right now. And, he has another one of those stories where he wrote to a Williams alum, and it turned into a summer internship, which turned into, a career path. And, he's kind of taken it from there. So through a lot of, hard work and, doing a great job. So, it's a great place. And it's, it's a place where I think, like I said, it's a relationship driven place. So people that have, those shared experiences, that our small town and community can create, I think, want to extend that and know what the guys are doing and willing to help, which is fun.
So I have one more question for you. So when we interviewed A-Stod, he talked about how he's a creative himself, how he tries to, not just be a basketball player, right? Just wants to try other things, do different activities, right? And he talked about how you implore your own players to be, bigger than a basketball player, right? Just seek out different creative or innovative fields outside of sports. So I want to talk about why you believe that's important for your players to do that, to seek out or venture into creative or innovative fields, and like why or when you started pushing them to do it.
I wouldn't say I push them to do or I would say I just encourage them to do what they're interested in. And,
Okay.
it's really one of the core tenets of Williams is the liberal art mindset of, educating the whole person. And one of the foundations of, our program is just, we want, like you said, individuals from all over the country, from different backgrounds, different interests, and we want them to come here and be themselves, learn about themselves, and pursue those interests, and let everybody know those interests, and communicate those so we can all kind of learn and grow together. And then as a team, we add on our team shared values, and then kind of develop and hopefully, produce, a great group on the court. But, I think when you become a head coach, it's a great experience, a great opportunity. The competitive part's going to fuel you, the teaching part. But there's so much more that I found that, really just you didn't know was special about it. And that's, assistants moving on and, furthering their career, and, how rewarding that is. And then it's young men like Alex and, all the guys I get to coach here that, how much they can teach you. So, I'm just kind of fortunate. One, I think Williams, like I said, liberal arts school attracts people, with different interests, and the whole college encourages them to pursue them, whether it's something they're, super comfortable with at the time or not. But yeah, it's been fun. I mean, now it's, we've had music majors, we've had art majors, we've had biology majors, we've had geoscience majors, we've had, econ, political science, history. So, I really get kind of, crash courses in every, things that I wasn't too familiar with. So, and I think it's one of the ways I can connect with guys, and learn with them. So, I try to read a book with the guys every summer, or have them read one book. So some years it's more of a, leadership development, personal development, or personal interest. So I thought Alex was going to mention it. The one summer we read Timbaland, the music producer, his autobiography, and it was awesome. Like, it was, it was music from my generation, but his, passion and interest. So it was kind of fun to share notes and what stood out, what didn't, from the creative side, but also the technical side. So, yeah, it's, what I think makes the best team is people with different perspectives, interests, and then if you can get them to, care about each other, work hard together for kind of a common goal, you can have a rewarding experience.
Yeah, I really think that's what makes the Division III model so effective, is that you got a bunch of different people that aren't just focused on this basketball or the sport world. They're trying to venture out, and then bringing that all together in the basketball world just elevates everybody. So I respect you pushing your players to be the best them, whatever they're passionate about. But we're going to end this episode with a little rapid fire and starting 5 edition. So let us know when you're ready for rapid fire.
I think I'm ready.
All
right. First rapid fire question: favorite away gym to coach in?
Bates on a Friday night.
That's funny. Coach Joe Riley said the same thing. He said he loves
really
playing. Yeah, he said he loves playing in Bates.
Yeah, Alumni gym.
It's a good one with the guys on the stand and on the stage going crazy as you're trying to make the important shot. So no, we got some cool ones in our league. Springfield's always a cool one to go to too. Springfield College, just the history of that place, and it's a cool, unique setup.
Favorite coach to compete against in the NESCAC?
It's a good one, bro.
Man, it's a tough one right now. No, it's tough because they've all really favorite one. I think we're going to lose every one of them, so none of them are my favorite. But I'll say Jeff Brown, just because I think he's as good as it gets, and it's always another one of those barometer games. It's our 5th NESCAC game every year, right in the middle of the season. So always a good test of what I somehow he always exposes exactly what I haven't taught well, because he's really good.
I mean, legendary coach right there, legendary coach. This one's kind of on the fly, but Alex talked about how you and him used to do shooting workouts before practices. So I'm wondering, was there like a favorite, like, did you ever have like a player of yours that you always like enjoyed like working out with? Like he always got the best out of you?
Player?
Yeah. Or maybe assistant coach that you played. Maybe yeah.
We used to, my first year, we had a senior, Hayden Rookley, who was, phenomenal shooter, set the D3 record for most consecutive free throws made, hit 12 threes in the game that year. And that spring, he was, preparing to go play overseas. So I used to work him out, anytime, he really wanted to. And he was fun to work out because I could, if I could have some fun with him, I could do some drills that would really frustrate him and, make him not talk to me for the rest of the day or something. But no, that was fun just because, it's one of the things we don't get as much at the D3 level as those times one-on-one on the court. And so, sometimes when those seniors are preparing to go, if they want to continue playing, it's fun to get out there and, have a different type kind of coaching relationship with them.
I'm ready for starting 5. Let's get it. I'm ready to hear this.
Yeah, me too. So a ton of your team's been great at the 3-point line shooting it. So this starting 5 edition, if you're a coach assembling a lineup 1 through 5, who's going to be your lineup? And this edition is going to be the best shooters you've coached.
So you're trying to get me in trouble. This is
that's my exact goal with every starting 5.
All right, you just said, how can I help you? You can send me your email and cell phone, and I'm just directing all text. If anybody
straight to me.
If anyone has a problem with this list, they can talk to KJ directly. It's his fault.
That I've coached at Williams?
No, your whole career.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
That made it a lot harder. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I told you that 2 teams in 2010 led the country in division in 3-point shooting.
That's what I'm saying. And so
I'm going to go.
So did your Cornell team. They were big 3-point shooting team.
I know. I'm going to go old school then.
Let's do it.
So at point guard, I'd have my teammate and that was wrapping up at Cornell, Adam Gore. Then I would have Kyle Wilson from Army West Point. He scored 2,000 points, so it's easy to go with. I'm just going to go with the 2,000 point scores. So Kyle Wilson, Ryan Whitman, then at the 3.
He's a bucket, Ryan Whitman.
Yeah. So then I'm going to go Blake Schultz was D3 Player of the Year in 2010. Always good to go with those, the Player of the Years, I guess.
The 5.
Nate Karen? Question mark.
Yeah, I got to say Nate. He led us in 3-point percentage the last 3 years as our 6'8" center. I was going to say Matt Karpowitz, but he'll tell you I didn't let him shoot threes.
So that's your lineup. All right, straight shooters.
I like that.
Me too. All right. Well, that's going to do it for another episode, Not Even D2. We appreciate your time, and you followed the NESCAC guests right up. Like they might need to come back and do a better performance than you just did.
No, I said always go with the players. They're way better. We got great coaches in our league, but the players are even better.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you, Coach. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Not Even D2. If you haven't already, make sure to go follow all the socials at Not Even D2. You can catch every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm your host, KJ Allison, and I'll see you next episode.